Welcome to Women Disrupting Tech. My name is Dirk Jan Upkes, and on this podcast I give the women who work in tech the platform they need to inspire and empower each other. Join me on a journey into the world of entrepreneurship, funding, biases and role models to discover the strategies for success in the tech industry. In other words, how women can disrupt tech. Are you ready to listen? Hey, welcome back to Women Disrupting Tech, and thank you for tuning in to episode 131. Does your strategy fit on a post-it? That provocative question is at the heart of my conversation with Dorit Roest. Dorit is the founder of Strategy Sprint Company, and she believes that founders move faster when their strategy is clear, aligned, and easy to revisit as the world changes. In our conversation, Dorit and I explore what many founders discover over time. When your personal goals and business goals drift apart, your motivation slips long before your metrics start reflecting this. By listening to this episode, you will learn three things. 1. Alignment is not optional. When you lose sight of the reason you started, your energy slips and your decisions lose clarity. 2. Zooming out helps you build with intention. Dorit shows how looking at what is happening in the world right now helps you spot opportunities and name threats without getting overwhelmed. 3. Putting your strategy on post-its with objectives and key results makes it easier to track, reflect, and adapt to changing circumstances. And as a bonus, you will discover the visualization exercise that shifted my own strategy for the year ahead. So when you're ready to listen and learn why your strategy should fit on a post-it, please welcome to Women Disrupting Tech, Dorit Roest. Hey, good afternoon, Dorit. Good to have you on the podcast. Looking forward to discussing the strategy sprint, and let's start with a bit of background. How did you get to build the company that you've built so far?
Yeah. Well, this is my third company so
Mm-hmm.
far, 36 years old. 13 years into my entrepreneurial journey. And I started actually based on something that I missed myself. I had a food blog, and this was back in 2012. And I thought, wow, what an exciting space to be in. And I called it bloggeting, bloggers marketing. And I figured, why isn't there a marketplace that switches supply and demand in influencer marketing? So even back in the day with WordPress, I built it myself within like it was a hell of a journey, let's say that, but it grew out to become the biggest micro influencer platform in the Netherlands. But my heart was not in the world of social media and advertising. So externally, I've been in this company for 7 years, and I grew it to 4,000 micro influencers, and we had a co-working space on the Rokin and an academy. Externally, it was a big,
Quite big then.
yeah, but externally,
Yeah.
it felt for everyone like, wow, you're doing great. But internally, I felt so misaligned because the company, I'm quite the idealist. And back then, the world of social media and advertising turned quite dark, like a lot of fake accounts and negativity. And um, I just felt a little bit empty in that whole entrepreneurial journey. And at a certain point, I had to face myself and say, okay, even though it's a successful company, it might not be your success. It might not be your definition for success. So it's okay to walk away from that, even though and like a year before that, I did a big merger with another company, and it was not my time, but I had to do it. So I closed that door in order for another one to open, and that one led me to Silicon Valley. So you probably know about TechLeap. I don't know if the listeners know about TechLeap. It started out as a public-private organization initiated by the Dutch government to help Dutch tech companies scale internationally. And the consulate in San Francisco was on a mission to build an organization like TechLeap, but then only for the US. So I took the challenge to build that organization together with Michael Doyes. He was the diplomat and I was the builder. And that was a hell of a journey. I lived in San Francisco back then. And to get to know so many successful entrepreneurs and inspiring stories, it really lit my fire.
Yeah.
And I needed that after that whole last phase of my first company. And it also brought me a lot of inspiration on growth and on leadership. And I took that to the Netherlands, where I founded Strategy Sprint Company, based on the idea that the way a lot of startups, a lot of companies in the tech space, a lot of successful Silicon Valley companies, the way they handle strategy is different from a lot of companies in the SME space or solopreneurs even. We have to check in with our strategy more often in this world that keeps on changing. And it has to be more simple, more fast, more true to who you really are. And I think I cracked the code on how to do that with Strategy Sprint Company.
Cool. And one of the things that we discussed up front was that you believe that entrepreneurship holds the key to solving a lot of the problems that we have in the world.
Yeah.
Double click for me on that. Why
Yeah.
do you believe that?
Don't you believe that?
I do believe it, and hopefully the listeners will believe in it. But
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's mostly because I've seen the motivation and the drive and um the true heart for their missions of
Mhm.
these successful companies in Silicon Valley. And I've also seen that their ability to move mountains, that's insane. And that's something that we don't really see that often in politics, because the
System
political system luckily is built on democracy. So it cannot be that flexible and agile
should it be?
and idealistic. No, I think luckily we have a lot of systems in place that protect our democracy,
Mhm.
and I think that's very valuable. But the downside of all of that is that things take time, and that adopting any innovation is just a huge challenge. I mean, I, as an entrepreneur, was part of the diplomatic system in the US.
Mhm.
And that was also a huge clash sometimes because I wanted to move fast and innovate and build things, and but I had to go through boards and ministries and all of that.
How
So
was that?
it was, I think I saw this whole phase in my career as a huge playground. And I knew, like, I, I literally said, turned down the offer to build back then Holland in the Valley and later Skill NL twice, because I was like, no, I cannot work like that. I cannot.
That's
This
not
is
me.
this is not me. But I'm so happy that I did, because if the mission is big enough, then you're willing to be a little bit more patient. Then you're willing to, for another time, explain the vision and why you want to do things. And it taught me a lot about politics. It taught me a lot about Silicon Valley, and my whole network exploded after that. So it was definitely worth it. And on top of all that, we helped hundreds of Dutch tech companies scale to the US. So that was the mission. So I would say worth it, but challenging. And when I came back to the Netherlands, I was like, okay, now it's time for me to fly again. Now I want to spread my wings and be the entrepreneur myself again.
Okay, so it was intentional that you chose to take on the mission in the US, also to teach yourself how do I work in terms of if I'm, let's say, constrained by all kinds of systems and boards and checks and balances.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So how does that help you in your current venture? How does that help you in with strategy sprints, but
Mhm.
also by with designing strategy?
Yeah. Well, I think we all tend to stay in our bubbles a lot.
Mhm.
So when I was doing my master's, I started my first company. So I never applied for a job. I never worked anywhere else than in my own company. Well, okay, some internships aside, but so I think it's very valuable to see how systems work in other organizations, and it helps me now as a strategist because I understand internal dynamics more. Because before that, I had my 7 years of being the boss myself and
Mhm.
building the organizational structure and decision structure and the meeting structure myself. Um, but it was very inspiring to hear and to see how it went in the diplomatic world. But also, my husband worked at Adyen, a very fast growing tech company, of course. And I saw that evolving from when he started over there. They were with like 250 people, and when he left, I don't even know what it is right now, but it's huge. I
Yeah, it's
also find
listed.
yeah, exactly. But I find it so fascinating to also see how his decision structure and the way they handle strategy, how that evolved. So I think it's crucial as a strategist that you know and you get your inspiration and your understanding from multiple points.
So I want to dive into the strategy sprint in a minute. Just to set the stage, one of the things I heard you say all the way at the beginning is we have to check in with our strategy
More of
more often and be more agile and be more into how we want it. Talk to me about what you see happening. That is that different from that
hmm
stage,
yeah.
and how does it differ?
Yeah. Well, as I said, we are living in a world that is changing so fast. And also us ourselves, we are evolving as people as well. And what I see and what I've seen in the US and in Silicon Valley as well is that people, no, I have to say differently, that founders tend to become misaligned from why they initially started a company. And when their business goals are not aligned with their personal goals, they often lack that internal drive and motivation to bring that company to the finish line. So, and that is crucial because I feel like the whole organization it has a systemic effect on the whole organization if the founder is not in a good place. And I've seen that firsthand when my company was doing great, but I grew away from that
And you
initial
felt the
mission.
emptiness.
Yes, exactly. Then you can, on willpower, you can go very, very far, but you will never get that far as someone that is aligned with the business goals. And I feel like we need the new definition of what a successful company or what successful entrepreneurship looks like. So why do we become misaligned with the business goals? That is usually because it's too static. Because once a year you go to an offsite and you decide like, okay, this is our journey and these are our milestones, but you have to move with all the changes and evolvement, everything that happens throughout. And I feel like a strategy has become something that is too heavy and too big. It can also be something that you can just summarize on a post it. And if you summarize it on a post it, it becomes clear for yourself, for everyone around it, but it's also easy to switch. Like the moment you feel like, misalignment, let's rewrite the post it and check in with it and make sure that we are all on the same page again and then move forward. And that is the whole mission, to make strategy more simple and to be able to do it in a faster way and check in with it more often. So those missions can stay true to what you really want as a leadership team or as a founding team.
Yeah. Does it also give more freedom in terms of how you execute? If you keep the strategy a bit more, yeah, a bit more, let's say, posted format?
Yeah, what we hear from founders that have done a strategy sprint is that they don't need to check in with each other that often anymore. That is always a side effect from working on your strategy, right? The moment you work on your strategy and you are aligned, then everything moves faster and easier. But
And
definitely,
takes less communication then.
yeah,
Is what
yeah,
I'm hearing you
yeah,
say.
yeah,
So I've done a strategy sprint myself. It was a tryout for a session that you did on a bigger stage. And one of the things that struck me is that it builds on actually three of your own lessons from Silicon Valley, which we'll get to right now. So the first lesson is to zoom out. Maybe start with why that's important as a starting point, because usually we dive straight into the deep end,
yeah,
and instead what you propose is okay, zoom out, take a shot of what is happening
yeah,
around you.
yeah. Well, first and foremost, if you like a lot of successful entrepreneurs, they have this magic momentum, right? The moment that they offer a solution exactly when people need it in the right way, and that feels like magic, but it's not magic. It's not a coincidence. It's because they continuously zoom out, look around them, and see opportunities and know how to seize them. So you have to ask yourself, what is happening in the world? What affects my industry? What role do I want to play? And if you do that in the right way, then you can hit that magic momentum. So that is the upside for you as a person with your
Uh-huh.
mission, with your company. Personally, I also feel like there's so much happening in the world right now, and we have an obligation as entrepreneurs because we are the type of humans that know how to build, that know how to make change, that know how to create something from nothing. We need entrepreneurs right now to tackle the challenges that we have. If we are talking about climate, if we are talking about peace, if we are talking about community politics, there's so much happening in the world. So I wanted to take that moment, and also in every strategy sprint, we also address that moral compass of entrepreneurs. Not like to put something else on their plate. I know entrepreneurs are busy enough, but what keeps you awake every night? What are those things that you feel like, whew, my children or the next generation, they are going to have to cope with that, and ask yourself, is there a way, and it doesn't have to be today, is there a way that I can play a role in that? And it can also be something small. Like, for instance, if you don't have time, but you do have the means, then sponsor a charity with your
Yeah.
company. But if you feel like, for instance, my business partner moved to South Africa in Cape Town,
Mhm.
and she is now looking at ways to give back to the local community with strategy sprints to help local entrepreneurs. I mean, those kind of little tweaks that don't that are not focused on making profit but are making an impact. I think true magic lies there, but also true fulfillment for you as an entrepreneur, because success that is only based on what you think is important and what is important in your company, without taking into account the role you want to play in the world, is kind of doomed to be empty as well.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is a way to avoid, let's say, the overwhelm, because indeed a lot is happening in the world, and we cannot solve all the problems in with well, if we had a magic wand, of course we could solve it, but we don't have that magic wand. But what I'm hearing you say is that one way to avoid the overwhelm is to focus with to put what is happening in the world in the context of your own company.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I I always start with the question like, I try to inspire them with a couple of big themes that are happening in the world right now. For instance, the developments with AI and tech, and the geopolitical shifts that are going on right now. And then I ask them, and I can also ask the listeners now,
Mhm.
like, literally, what are the things that you see on the news that you feel like that really that hits me? Or what are the things that when you are doom scrolling on Instagram or on any social media, what are the things that really touch you? For instance, the images that you saw in Gaza, for instance, and then ask yourself, like, why does it does it touch you, and why does it matter to you, and what kind of change would you like to see, and can is there a way that you can play a little role in that? And it can also be, in my next career I would like to do this or this or this, but
But then
what
you sort of park it,
yeah,
put it on a
yeah,
parking lot
yeah,
for later.
but don't skip it, don't forget about it. When you are working on your strategy, also zoom out first, because who knows, maybe you are able to align the impact you want to make in the world with your company goals, and that is true magic, because then you can pull from your intrinsic motivation, and it will give you so much more fulfillment and happiness, and will attract the right people. There's also a business upside uh, in involving impact topics in your company.
Yeah. So one of the steps here also involves tracking opportunities and threats that come from these developments. So if a founder looks to, let's say, spot trends for that affect their business in 2026,
Mhm.
um, how do they map these opportunities and threats onto their business?
Yeah. Well, this is actually it comes from the good old SWOT, the
Yeah.
strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Um, and to give an example, if we have a power outage, what will happen to your company? That's a very real question you have to ask yourself right now. And a lot of the entrepreneurs are optimists, and they love to stay away from these scenarios, but we need to
Is that
face that.
Yeah, is that
Mhm.
because they're optimists though, or because they're like, oh, that is difficult? Because
Yeah.
that actually that's one of the points I wanted to make. Strategy for many people, strategy is sort of a big
Mhm.
um, thing that you can't. Well, it's difficult to combine in bite-sized chunks,
Yeah. Well, yes, we see that a lot of
and
people see that way indeed.
and
And it can I feel like, so in the strategy sprint, so the original strategy sprint is a 1 day uh strategic workshop where you go through a series of 40 different steps, which is like we really really thought about each and every step, and this is like version 863.
yeah,
We got so much feedback. This is like the we cracked the code on the most effective strategy session in 1 day. And one of the exercises is an exercise where we ask them for the what if everything goes right and what if everything goes wrong. And both of the scenarios, we ask them to really dive into that. And we see so much friction if entrepreneurs need to go to that dark place of what if everything goes wrong. You literally see it in their faces, people like frowning and and they don't want to be there. So yeah, I do see that a lot of the entrepreneurs try to avoid these doom scenarios.
yeah. Not only entrepreneurs, by the way, because we
Yes.
got this letter from the government,
Yeah.
this little pack, and for context of listeners outside the Netherlands, I think every citizen, maybe even every company in the Netherlands, got a letter from the government telling people like, hey, this is time to prepare for
Disaster.
the very bad situations, and here are some things you can do. So actually, my girlfriend and I were supposed to have this conversation yesterday, Sunday evening. Um, we didn't. But these are the things that are easily avoided indeed, even by people outside the entrepreneurial
Yeah.
realm, because
Well, and
it's
that is also the whole magic of facilitating sprints and being that accountability person on just just have this short moment, like it's a sprint, short moment to address this, and then we can continue and build that dream. But it's just one thing that should be taken into account.
Yeah, and even if you do that, let's say indeed for maybe 5 minutes or so, that you just write down every quarter, let's say, these are the bad things that could happen, and these are my plans, and maybe you have plans.
Yeah, and you know what the funny thing is? For all of the doom scenarios,
Hmm.
we see two categories. We see one is the limiting beliefs that an entrepreneur has themselves, like who am I to change this
Hmm.
industry, or who am I to scale to the US? No, that is something for other people, or to become an investor. But the other one is just bears on the road, and those bears on the road, if you can see them, like I always see the iceberg from the Titanic. Like
Yeah,
you're sailing, you see that iceberg, but if you see it beforehand, then you can proactively move around it.
yeah,
So identify those threats, and make a plan on how to avoid these risks, and then move on to changing the world in a way that you want to do with your company.
yeah. Or decide that you want to take the risk,
Yeah, yeah.
which is okay
Calculated
too.
risk.
And so sometimes it's indeed a calculated risk that you
Yeah,
take, and
nothing
that
wrong
you
with
are
that.
like, well,
Yeah, yeah. But it's like this whole exercise is literally 8 minutes in the whole day, but it's super important, and it's always showing those blind spots of the entrepreneurs.
yeah, which at the end of the day are not blind spots then anymore.
No, no, we've shed some light on them.
Yes. So talking about light, the next stage is that you introduce a battery check.
Yeah,
Um, Talk us through that process, because I thought it was very useful
yeah,
to do.
yeah.
Also to take stock of yourself, but also of the company. I think you can apply the battery check there as well.
Well, I can explain the exercise, but then I'm also very curious, dear Jan, what you experienced in that whole exercise,
Okay.
if you want to share.
Yeah.
So the battery check is again a way to simplify strategy. We need more of that. So look at your life and look at the three intrinsic drivers that you have: time, money, and energy. And check in with yourself, like how full is each battery, and try to exaggerate a little bit. So, okay, right now, I never feel like I have time left, but I am doing great money wise, but I'm always tired. So, energy wise is also something that needs to be improved. And then, so we literally ask people to draw the balance of those batteries, those three batteries, and then we ask them to choose and say, okay, looking at 2026, which one battery needs your attention? What is your focus? What is your priority? And then we ask them to raise hands, like time or money or
Uh,
energy. And that is for us, like strategy is nothing more than a goal with a plan. And you just have to have an idea of the direction you're going
yeah.
to. And time, money, or energy can be a great, also like a compass in that journey. Like, okay, but is it going to help me get that energy back? No? Okay, then you should not do that. So it's a
Yeah.
powerful tool.
And it's a way to prioritize
Yes. Yeah.
actions.
And how
Well,
was it for you, dear Jan?
what it did for me is actually is so you look at the three batteries, and actually my money battery was a bit fuller than I expected it to be upfront,
Oh, great.
because I'm usually quite negative about my money situation
Mhm.
towards myself. But I was like, hey, but if I look at it from a bit broader perspective, actually, I'm not earning a lot of money. It's not that and I still want to work on that. So it will be the focus next year, because I think the let's say the energy part and the health part, for me is like, yeah, that I take care of
Yeah. Yeah.
almost like a maniac to some. but the money part is something that needs to be worked on. But I was a bit surprised about that. It's the starting situation is a lot better than I actually
Oh, yeah.
thought about upfront.
Yeah. So
So
it
it's
was
also a way to let's say to put things into perspective and to put it in a broader perspective. Actually, that's
yeah.
what it did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great to hear. And also, again, we also have blind spots of these elements of our strategy, right? Because you tend to look at your strategy like, okay, what are my goals, and looking at a future, but maybe it's not really something that comes natural to you to also reflect, for instance. So that is, I'm happy to, with these strategy sprints, offer all these elements of the strategy and all pressure cooker mode, so not too long, but still, everyone finds an aha moment or breakthrough moment in another part. And what I think is, by the way, very interesting, because a lot of the listeners are from the tech scene. And when I ask tech entrepreneurs this question or this exercise, then it's always about time. They don't have time. Money and energy is okay, but time is really the number one focus. And 2 weeks ago, we had a partner event with Denkproducties. They are the leader of the business seminars in the Netherlands. So a lot of CEOs and corporate managers, also entrepreneurs, but a lot of more from the corporate space. And almost everyone said energy. And then with a session with all female entrepreneurs, everyone says money. So that is so fascinating to me, that in all these different sectors and types of leaders, that we see such a huge shift.
Yeah, that's indeed a huge shift because on the other hand, for the why do you think for the corporate people, energy was a thing,
Well,
a low
the,
battery item? Let's say.
they how do you call it, the golden cage of the corporates.
Yeah,
So they might just be comfortable in a position that they make enough money. They probably have, there's more attention to work life balance in corporates, maybe. So the one thing they need to tackle is energy, and maybe because they are not really intrinsically driven always. But this is very, like, I'm really we try to remove bias, right? But this is very biased.
yeah.
But
Well,
that is my
it's a bias
assumption.
that I can confirm from my own experience.
Yeah,
Let me put it that way. So
yeah,
I'm not saying that everyone in corporate is not driven by good intentions or by his or her own goals. But what I do see a lot is that people, they don't burn out physically
hmm,
necessarily, but they do burn out in terms of energy
yeah,
over time.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
the work that they did, I remember for myself actually going into compliance and risk was clearly intended, fully aligned with who I am still.
Hmm, hmm.
And then I found myself in a environment where I had to set rules in a way that wasn't aligned with me, and so that took a lot of energy out. So in that sense, I'm not surprised to hear that.
You
But
recognize that,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And we're talking about women disrupting tech. I'm just personally very sad, even, that all these female entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, that they are, their focus is always money, because they're playing, they're keeping their how do I say this?
is that
Uh,
because they're playing small, or
yeah,
is
that's
that?
what I was saying. Yeah,
Uh,
I was thinking if I can say playing small. Um, so I every time I ask this question to a woman, it's usually, as in the field of entrepreneurship, it's usually focused on money, because they just take on too less salary, or they, and their business model is too small, or and I feel like, oh, we should really change that.
yeah,
So I hope to inspire a lot of women to think bigger with those with those examples and inspiration that I got from Silicon Valley. But I also feel like that change just needs to come from within.
Yeah, I think it's both. Huh? Yes, Dutch people especially tend to think small compared to, let's say, especially Americans, of course, uh, by the sheer size of the market that they're playing in. But also, and I see that even in the US, that women are getting smaller checks in funding. They're getting lower salaries compare on an hourly basis. Eh? So this
Yeah.
is not they work part time. This is based on an hourly basis. They get less in all aspects. I was wondering, how do we shift? And this is a bit preempting the end of the episode, but how do we shift that perspective, especially for women, so they start putting themselves on the same position as men,
Yeah.
where they can say, "Hey, listen, reward me equally."
Well, it's very easy. Women just need to demand more. So another exercise in the strategy sprint is literally writing out the business model in post-its. So what are your most important products or pillars in your company, and what is the business model behind that? And what I always do is challenge them, like, okay, can we make it twice as expensive? Can we up that, multiply that by 2 or maybe even 3, and then try to find a comfort zone and then get them a little bit beyond that, and they still sell their products for that higher price. They still, for instance, a lot of speakers, Dutch women speakers, the fees are so much lower than their male counterparts. Just ask for more. So I feel like that is the change that we need to see, and we need to talk about money more. So, for instance, explain what your rates are, and hopefully inspire others to also ask what they're worth.
Yeah, okay. There's as what your worth is a toxic one, I think.
Yeah,
Big.
why?
I read that. I think on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
I read something like asking what you're worth puts you in the position that if you don't get a deal at the price you wanted, you'll
Hmm.
start thinking that you're not worth it. So it works actually counterproductive.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in Dutch, we say poen, plezier, prestige. So money, pleasure, prestige. And for instance, like, okay, for every right now, I my company has grown so big that I don't do strategy spins that often anymore. Facilitate them myself, not that often anymore. But I do still. I still have a lot of speaking engagements, for instance. And for every request that I get to speak somewhere, I think to myself, okay, what's in it for me? Is it money? Poen? Is it pleasure? Plezier? Is it prestige? And it has to be at least two of these factors. But for instance, if there's a big opportunity somewhere, I am super willing to lower my fee. But first ask your normal fee.
Yeah.
And then if they say no, then it starts, because then you can have that conversation on how to balance out what you're offering and what they are giving you. So just don't
Take the
stop.
no- Yeah,
Don't
but
stop at the first no. Just try to figure out where to balance, and you can always find that.
yeah. So I want to return to one of the reflection parts that follows the battery, which is peak, bit, pivot. What are your own big lessons from the past year in each of these buckets?
Yeah. Well, I had quite a year, because in April I got my second baby.
Yeah.
So I had my maternity leave in 2025, and that was actually the fact that like, it's a huge challenge being an entrepreneur and having a baby at the same time. I cannot tell you, like, it's a huge challenge, but it was a great way to challenge myself on how to build my company in a way that it could move on without me. And that process took a lot from me, from my team, from my business partner. But it went great. Like, even in my maternity leave, people applied for our Strategy Sprint Academy. And when I returned, could immediately start with the new cohort. And above all of that, I could really take that time to enjoy that super precious time in my life with my family. And I knew that the company was in good hands. So that is 100% the peak. Even in my whole career, that was a peak.
But it was the second, your second, right?
Second. Yeah.
What,
Yeah.
what when what was the first?
Yeah, the first one was actually the turning point in Skill NL in because when I went on maternity leave, we really had to have the operational team
Working.
ongoing. Yeah,
Yeah.
working. So there was also a great moment because when I returned, I stayed on for a little while, but I also felt like my job is done here. I'm a builder, and this
Mm.
organization, it's rolling. And now I tried to scale it a little bit further. That's who I am. So we scaled it to 7 cities in the US already, like Skill in New York, and Chicago, Atlanta, etc. And then there was there was an opportunity to also maybe scale it to France and England. And but then I was like, no, this is not my battle to fight anymore. It turned out to become more of lobbying instead of building. I was like, back to my own track.
Yeah. So those were the peaks and then the pits.
Yeah, I just realized that this pit is not 2025 anymore. In my first trimester, I just hired 2 new persons in my team to make sure that my company would get up to speed so I could leave with my maternity leave. But what I didn't take into account was the factor that in my second pregnancy, totally different from my first, I was so nauseous. I even had to have medication. There was literally, I could not bear anything. So I could not manage those 2 new people. So I felt so bad because it was a very vulnerable time in my company because I was just on that tipping point of scaling,
Hmm.
and I felt responsible for these people, but I was also paying them without them even doing something. I had to postpone all my cohorts, so I was bleeding money, and on the other side, knowing that you don't know if it's going to be like that for the whole pregnancy. So it was a huge realization for me that I know that men and women are not the same. But in this phase of life, as a woman entrepreneur, being pregnant, trying to get pregnant, after being pregnant, nursing, everything, that whole phase, we are literally like we are still asking from ourselves that we are handling our companies the way that we did before, but that is impossible. It is just impossible, and we ask so much of ourselves. I ask so much for my of myself, but the acknowledgement, like, okay, but in this phase, we are behind 10-0 to our male counterparts that can just go on with their entrepreneurial journey. And for me, like, we also had like fertility treatments and everything. Like, for the past 6 years, I'm happy to have a successful business, but it's despite those 6 years of this phase in my life. And it asks a lot of women. So we need to have more compassion for that, I feel.
Yeah. Is it more compassion or is it also that men can do more?
Well, in the house, like literally, I'm very happy that my husband is a great father, but it starts in the relationships. Like, have know that your partner has your back, so you can work. That's it starts there, but we also need a lot of systemic changes. Yeah, I don't even know where to start on this topic even.
Okay. So I want to finish off the peak pivot with the pivots. What are pivots that you did this year? Give, or
Um,
maybe even did you use the pit from that first trimester as a reflection moment
yes.
to make a pivot?
Yeah. I feel like I am a little bit traumatized by my first company and the team. I loved everyone that I worked with, but I just didn't really love myself as a manager. So when I had to build a team again with Skill NL, it was also a bit challenging because I felt like, am I able to do that in a way that is different from the first time? And I was. But now, the third time, I was like, hey, but what if I am not managing them? What if I use a couple of elements from holacracy and from if I work with senior freelancers instead of people that I really hire on a full time business or basis? So I am now figuring out a whole new way of being an entrepreneur, being a leader, and I love the whole journey. But it's more of a hybrid company, and it's really serves me and the organization very well.
Okay, well that's very cool to hear. So we talked about thinking big and the difficulties we have, especially Dutch founders. I think. How can we shift that? Is there's an exercise in the workshop that you give, which I found really powerful
What
because
was it?
it led me to an insight. Okay, what if you take this concept that you have for your company, and what if you just 10x it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's such a powerful question, right? What if you have 10 times the courage that you have right now? What if you can make it 10 times bigger? Um, so what we need is encouragement for that. So in the Netherlands, we are often saying, "Doe maar normaal, dan doe je al gek genoeg." Just act normal. That's crazy enough. Or
Yeah,
don't stick out too much, because we like to be very equal to everyone. And in the US, we see that if someone sticks out, we applaud. They applaud that, and it's that ambition and drive. We really see that as someone that is like a hero. So what I feel is important that if we speak out about our dreams and about our plans, that people around those dreamers don't take them down, just lift them up. So say, yes, that's amazing, how can I help, instead of, "Oeh, zou je dat nou wel doen?
yeah.
Should you
Is
do
that
that?"
is that the
That
right
is
thing?
really because that is really we're risk avoiding people here in the Netherlands. And we the whole idea is that failing isn't bad. Like, at least you try. And if you fail, what's the worst that can happen? And probably you will learn from it. So I hope that that mindset gets adopted more. I feel like it's already getting more adopted in the entrepreneurial space as well,
Yeah,
in the tech space as well, right?
yeah, yeah.
Experiment driven innovations. So it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, and again, I think the threats and opportunities there play a role because if you have threats and opportunities, it also gives you a way to say, okay, and these are the experiments that I'm going to run.
Yes, yes, yeah,
And then if that works, you can 10x it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So what you did to 10x it is doing a visualization exercise. Can you take us through?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, your brain really responds to images more than abstract goals, and
Uh,
try to really shift different workshop techniques to make sure we address all kinds of personalities in all kinds of ways. So one is a visualization, and that is done quite often by people in sports, for instance, and they literally already visualize, like Michael Phelps, the swimmer. He visualizes the moment he takes off his robe and he steps on the starting block,
mm,
and then he really lives that moment as if it was already happening. So What I like to do is ask someone to brain dump, like write down anything that comes to mind about what your life will look like in 5 years. And then put down the pen, put it away, close your eyes, and think about your ideal day in 5 years. Imagine it's 2030 and you wake up. What happens? Where are you? What does your house look like? Who are you with in that house? And if you go to work, what kind of work and in what kind of environment and with what kind of people are you working? What are you working on? And then, like, it would be too boring to go through the whole visualization here right now, but maybe people already get images in their head, and your brain responds to that so much more than words and goals and abstract other things. So try to remove all those filters, all those limitations, and really dream big about your dream life in 5 years. And if I tell you that you are the architect of your life and everything is possible, what needs to change? And that is also a very powerful tool, because if we're talking about your life instead of your work, and then align these two, that is.
It's really what it gave me was a perspective, and in that sense, it was really magical because what it did for to me just to give people a feel. So I'm working on an app. We'll discuss that in a minute. But what it gave me is it took me back to a trip that I took to Silicon Valley last year, where I first sort of got the idea like, hey, I've been talking to myself like money is not a way for you to shift the system. And in Silicon Valley, for the first time, I thought like, okay, but what if it is? What if I can deploy? What would that look like? So I started visualizing it, writing it down. And what the visualization in your workshop actually did is take me back to that moment in
Mm,
Silicon Valley, but also
mm,
take me back to okay, so yes, you're building an app, and yes, that's a starting point, and that's all fine,
mhm,
and I should still continue to do that, but ultimately, it should lead to a way that the money it's generating
mhm.
to shift to sort of um, power more shift system change,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And even so you
and
can
to
make
make
that.
that like really concrete.
Mhm,
It prompted me to write down, okay, so ultimately the goal is not to um, build a company that helps women get funding, but
mhm.
also provide that funding. So a
Yeah,
VC
yeah,
firm.
yeah, yeah. And then on your own terms, right?
Yeah,
In your own way. And
yeah,
how cool is that? I can see it in your eyes right now. People that are listening, like his eyes spark up. And that is what we need. Because if leaders and entrepreneurs are adding that spark to their strategy, then they will do anything to accomplish that. True. Doing it.
yeah. And it's and literally, yes, it takes me still a lot of thinking power. Like, okay, what is it going to look like? But on the other hand, having that goal makes you sort of also give, at least it gives me a lot of extra energy, a lot
Yeah,
of extra power
that's
to
amazing.
to work on things.
You know what? There's a saying, be stubborn about your destination, but flexible on how to get there. And I really like that, because you don't need to figure out 100% your roadmap towards your goal. It can be flexible, it can be vague somewhere, but you have to know that you're already on track towards that goal. Um, and the specific milestones you can figure out along the way, but just be stubborn about that destination that you have in mind.
Yeah. And even if you figure out like me, I still have to have those milestones in place, but I'm, let's say, mindful of the fact that these might change in
Yeah,
order or
yeah,
in terms of timing.
yeah. Because your destination is really that shift in the way women raise funding to disrupt tech, right?
Yeah. Ultimately, I want to build a venture capital firm that equally funds male and female founders.
Yeah. Yeah. And the nice thing is, if you are very clear on your mission, then you will attract people that are on that same mission or that really want you to succeed. So that is super powerful. Well, I'm happy that the visualization played a small role in your mission,
Yeah.
Dirk.
Well, returning to and actually moving to the last stage of the workshop, which
Mhm.
is walk your why.
Yeah,
Um, when I first saw the picture, I was like, "Oh, is that him?" So this is a former uh,
Dutch actor.
Dutch actor who's now like really big in LA and in Silicon Valley with building companies. Uh, but I remember looking at him like, okay, he's such a loser as an actor.
We're talking about Arnie from Goede Tijden, Slechte Tijden.
Yeah, so it's like one of these the Bold and the Beautiful, but then Dutch
Soap
Dutch
operas, right?
soap opera. That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you. Um, anyway, I was looking at him first, like, okay, really. I mean, the acting was at the beginning was like really horrible, but over time it became a lot better, and he became actually really successful as an actor, but also as an entrepreneur, I think. So, talking about because you set him up as an example of someone who talks his why. What does he do to do
Yeah.
this?
Well, this was actually an introduction to a pitching event that we hosted in Los Angeles with him. So, and it was mostly to sort of wake everyone up, like, "Hey, Arnie, huh?" And oh, that's a big guy in tech now. Okay, but also to show that it was a prestigious event. We had the Dutch startup ecosystem lined up, investors, big ecosystem players, people that had a big exit before, for 10 Dutch tech founders that were scaling to the US. And we were on a trade mission, so to say.
Mhm.
One of those founders, and we really drilled them for the 10 weeks before that on how to pitch their company, but also on their whole strategy, on their whole go to market strategy. And one of them, and I really, really liked this guy, started pitching and and at a certain moment, and he started off really well, and at a certain moment it was just crickets, nothing. And he blacked out. He didn't know what to say, and he ran out. Uh, so he did not even finish. He ran out from that prestigious group of people that we had in front of him. So I went after him, and it was he just had like a worst breakdown ever, acknowledging, wow, this is not my journey. I don't want to scale to the US. I am so grateful for everything you've done for me, but I'm not in the right place here. And it's like climbing a ladder that is up the wrong wall.
Yeah.
And this is not my journey. And it was so painful because he gave it his all, but he felt like if I continue now, there's no way back. So I need to put a halt to this. And well, it was an example to show people that if your goals are not aligned with you, who you are, your work, what you want to accomplish, but also with what kind of role you want to play in the world. So
Mhm.
those three factors: you, work, world, and we call it the three circles of growth. If they are not aligned, then sooner or later you will feel you will hit this wall. And on the other side, on the upside, the founders that do make it, that do succeed, for them, it's not a it's not even a question. Everything is aligned. They are putting the best they have as a person, like their skills, their capabilities. They're the best version of themselves in the role that they are playing in that company. They are making the impact that they want to make in the world in a way that they want to do it, and their company company goals are also aligned with all of that. So that is like one of the most important ways to define um if success will also give you that fulfillment that you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is it sort of equal to what is ikigai?
Yes, yes,
Because
definitely.
there you have the circles as well, and you have a tiny
Yeah,
little spot in the middle that
yes,
actually matches all three.
it's definitely aligned with that. So what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. So your passion, mission, profession, and vacation. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that matches you, world, and work. I would
Yeah.
think to a
And the
large.
secret to a long and happy life and a successful company that will actually give you the fulfillment that you want.
Yeah. So what is a check that people can perform to make sure that what they're or come to the conclusion that it's not that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Well, you just sometimes need a check out. You need that moment to take a step back and zoom out and look at your company and look at what you're doing. Then like for instance, we teach our facilitators, we really teach them to mirror what they see. So the moment a founder is lower in energy, or you see them frowning, then something is not balanced out or aligned there.
Huh?
And then we give that back to them like, hey, what is going on? I see your energy drops a little bit. And then they're like, oh, yeah, no, I'm very worried about the financial part or this. So just have someone that helps you mirror what they see, and make sure that you uh, don't have those factors in your company or in your life that you're not happy about. And if they are, then make a plan on how to overcome those.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
usually it is checking in with a feeling that will always tell the truth.
Is that something we don't do often enough? Checking in with our, the feeling.
I feel like in strategy, we don't do that very often. And I have to say, like, the strategy sprint method is not spiritual or very squishy, emotionally feely, or whatever. It's very practical and rational about all these elements that are part of your strategy. But the way that facilitators help you through the process, that is definitely taking into account that the energy should also be okay. And yes, it's I feel especially if companies scale, then you're just part of that bigger system. And then a lot of founders turn out to become prisoners of their own prison that they built. And that is something you want to avoid because you can build that company in a way that suits you. And that way is the only way you will get the furthest, the farthest as you can go.
So final touch back on the goals that we set.
Mm.
Final step that you do is that you let people write down this goal is achieved when
Yes.
dot
Yeah.
dot dot.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can you do that? In how much time do you need to do that? And how can you make it measurable without making it rigid? Because actually, at the
Mhm.
start we talked about staying agile a bit.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, I feel like if goals are too complex, then people will lose track of them. They don't even know what they were in the beginning. So I've done a lot of OKRs, and I'm also a fan of those, but not too much. So just take that idea of having an O objective, a KR, key result, and combine that. So have this objective that is inspiring and use words for that. And then have key results, use numbers for that, that measures whether you have achieved that objective. And that's it. You should just be able to write them down on post-its, and if not, then it's too complex, and people will not be able to keep track of it and keep it in mind.
Okay, so that's a really powerful one to if it doesn't fit on a post-it,
Yeah,
it's
it's too big.
too big, too
Yeah,
complex.
too
So
complex. Yeah,
so in my case,
you
let's
need
say I
to.
want.
They can be big. They should be big, big goals, but not complex. Not
Yeah.
use many words.
So in my case, my goal is to for next year to build the first stage of the company,
Hmm.
being the app and making sure it starts monetizing. So then a key result would be around the number of subscribers, the number of or the amount of money that I earn.
Yeah. And ideally, it's a metric that represents both the value for
Yeah.
you as your end user. That will be even greater. So
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 let's
not
say
only
that
users, but
yeah,
also the amount of minutes spent on the app, or the amount of uh,
yeah, the amount of or the number of people who I've helped
yeah, yeah,
by
exactly.
giving them access.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So keep it simple
Okay. Well,
and check
then
in often.
yeah, how often do you recommend checking in back in on those goals, also to see if you need to pivot somewhere?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we recommend do one strategy sprint each year, like a yearly checkup on your car, for instance. So have that. That's 1 day a year. That's doable. And then every quarter, check in with those goals and see how far along are you. The whole goal of a strategy sprint is creating a roadmap for the next quarter, year, and 5 years. And a lot of our clients, sprinters, how we call them, really hang that flip over in their office and keep track of it that way. So again, really about simplifying. So there's a line of goals on the roadmap, and there's a line of projects on the roadmap, and that's it.
Cool, and it also helps with accountability if you have the roadmap visually
Yeah,
in your office, because then
yeah.
you are looking at the roadmap every day. That's what I learned from another business coach.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, and a lot of our so we have 50 facilitators that are certified, and in the beginning I was like, no, 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 it's a 1 day sprint. We're not doing anything else, just a strategy sprint. But like literally 9 out of 10 of the first facilitators were constantly asked back. And then I was like, at a certain point, okay, maybe I don't like it, because I felt as an entrepreneur, I don't need hand holding. I just need a sparring partner once a year. But I'm an entrepreneur myself. I know how to keep track of all of it. And it was I started out as a counter movement against all the business coaching, and like I felt like sometimes the business coaching was also like making them dependable on the
yeah,
business
it's
coach, and I
yeah,
was like, make sure they just 1 day and then they can fly. But now we see that a lot of people really want the accountability. So now we also have a goal sprint every quarter. So to just realign and just check in. So a lot of facilitators also help entrepreneurs with that.
that's cool. Yeah, on the other hand, I'm not that surprised because the strategy is a living thing. So there's no way to that you just set it and forget it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I just overestimated the entrepreneurs. I feel like they can do that themselves.
Is
But
that is that is that overestimation, or is that having a really good product that sort of creates its own extra
demand.
demand?
Yeah. Well, what people like is that it's no bullshit and short and efficient. So, for instance, if my business partner and I do a strategy sprint, because we also do it on a yearly basis, we also get a facilitator, even though we are the method,
Yeah,
because it really helps you to do everything within 1 day. And that is because they are guarding the pressure cooker mode. And so the value is really in that, making sure that it's short and efficient.
yeah. And then that's when strategy works very well.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Dorit, I've already hinted on this. I'm building something myself. So, an AI based funding coach to connect female founders and investors, and later also a VC that really closes the funding gap. Um, I was wondering about your perspective. What is one functionality this tool should have to support female founders in getting more and better funding for their startups?
So what I feel is missing is the informal. etiquette. For instance, when I was seeking funding, I just did not really know, like, can I also WhatsApp an investor,
Mm.
or is it only email? And when should I get back to them, or should I wait for them to respond? And I feel like a lot of men maybe get these hints and ideas from just from their friends, or whatever. But the way that things work, that was something that I was very unsure of.
Okay.
Did you ever hear
So
that?
I understand the hesitation, let's say, especially, okay, should I push on this, yes or no, or should I just wait for that person to come back to me? That's something that I've heard before, and that it's also, let's say, a dilemma that I struggle with quite often.
It was especially in the beginning because I didn't want to come off as a rookie. I was a rookie, but I wanted them to have the idea that I was very experienced in talking to investors and in pitching my company. And I just
Um,
so I felt like they might
see you for less than you are.
yes. Yes, and
Yeah, that
I feel like that the most common things you probably already picked up on. So I feel like this might be an out of the box thing that is not on your radar yet.
Yeah, well, it is, let's say, the informal etiquette, as you called it, is something that the informal rules of the game are what making life, particularly for women, because they're wired differently, um, a lot more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah,
And
and
equalizing that player, so leveling the playing field is for sure one of the objectives I have.
yeah, and I think that the moment that so it's going to be an AI tool, right?
Yeah,
So the moment they pick up on someone needing some emotional support, ask them to find a woman that has been in your shoes before,
yeah.
because there's nothing that gives you more energy and more support than talking to women that have gone through what you're going through at that time. And I myself, I had an amazing group of 15 female founders that were in the same stage as I was, and it was like the best support group ever. But if you don't have that, and the tool picks up on it, make sure that you forward them, like, go have a cup of coffee with another female founder.
Oh, that's an interesting one because I was actually thinking of solving it through providing warm connections with investors also.
Mm. Hmm. No, yeah.
So like really putting people one on one in contact with each other,
Mhm.
and by doing that, establishing let's say an early layer of trust, which makes it easier to communicate about these things.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe
Could
also
also be,
include those preferences like, hey, you can approach me via WhatsApp, LinkedIn, and mail, or no, you can only call me at these times of day, or
yeah.
I,
But
and
then there's always a conflict of interest, right? With an investor and a founder, because the investor has never been in the shoes of the founder, and the founder might need something from the investor
oh,
in
in
a
that
later
sense.
stage, right? Uh,
Ah, okay. Fair point.
I would say that especially for female founders, support from peers is the fuel that you need to keep on going.
That is a really wonderful place to close.
Yes.
Dorit Roest, thank you very much for an amazing conversation. I always say that, but really, I mean this. I really had a blast recording this.
Thanks.
Um, if people want to learn more about you, about the strategy sprint, maybe book you or one of your facilitators to do one in their offices or for their company, where can they find you?
Well, we are launching a new booking tool on strategysprint.company in 2 days.
Okay.
So if you feel like, oh my God, it's the end of the year and we still need our strategy for the next year, and you want to handle all of that within 1 day, then go to our website. And we're also opening a cohort in January, end of January, both in Cape Town and in Amsterdam, to become a certified strategy sprint facilitator yourself, which is the coolest job in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll include those links in the show notes. And just to make sure, so this is going to be launched, new booking tool will be launched on December 3rd.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So then it will be live by the time this episode airs, which is December 11th.
Yeah. And then you can just search and click through the 50 different facilitators that each have their own background and personality, and
And choose
see
one
when
that
they are
matches.
available.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and choose one that matches yours.
Yes.
Well, again, Dorit Roest, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
an
Thank
amazing
you.
conversation.
It was a
Listeners,
pleasure.
absolutely. Listeners, thank you very much for listening. And until the next episode, as always, keep being awesome. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you for tuning in to episode 131 of Women Disrupting Tech with Dorit Roest, titled Why Your Strategy Should Fit on a Post-it. Dorit and I hope that you found our conversation as strategic and clarifying as we intended it to be. And if you have any questions for Dorit, please share them in the comments on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. When you want to connect with Dorit, book a strategy sprint, or be part of the new cohort of strategy sprint facilitators, please check out the links in the show notes. As usual, you can find the show notes at womendisruptingtech.blog via the link in the caption. If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, please consider leaving a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Leaving a rating or a review helps new listeners find the podcast and supports my guests by giving them a bigger platform. And if you're not already following us, please make sure to follow Women Disrupting Tech on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. You can also follow the podcast on social media. You can find us everywhere as at Women Disrupting Tech. And you can also find Women Disrupting Tech on Substack. On Substack, you'll find in-depth stories and behind-the-scenes insights from each episode, plus the trends that I've spotted across all the conversations I've had so far. So don't forget to subscribe to Women Disrupting Tech on Substack. Finally, if you want to connect with me directly, please reach out via email dirkjan@womendisruptingtech.blog or connect with me on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, simply search for my name and you'll find me. With that, I wish you a wonderful day. I hope to see you in the next episode. And until then, as always, keep being awesome.